Hi everybody, welcome to All Guys New Old. I am David Rodriguez, and today we're going to be reviewing Marvel United, the X-Men version. This was published in 2021 from CMON Games and is designed by Andrea Terravicchio, Rudiger Seta, and Eric Lang. Now, this is sort of a kind of a sequel of sorts, although it's really sort of like it's a re-theming, sort of the original Marvel United. It just has different heroes. There are some more rules in this particular box, but this review is also pretty much good for the original box. We'll talk about the very few differences between them. But since this is a superhero game, we're going to talk to our superhero expert, the Inconveniencer.
Oh my god, these heroes look so stupid with their giant heads and little teeny bodies.
Well, I'm pretty sure it's just an artistic, stylistic kind of choice. I don't think superheroes actually are proportioned that way.
I know what I'll do. I'll make them all t-shirts.
You're gonna make them t-shirts? How's that even inconvenient at all? I don't get it.
Because there's no way they'll be able to pull a t-shirt over their giant heads, of course. The Inconveniencer strikes again!
Wow, you're really running out of ideas of inconvenient things to do, aren't you? Anyway, let's go to our gameplay overview. Alright, so the gameplay overview. This is actually a pretty easy game overall. You're going to start by picking the villain you want to go against. They're going to have their own sort of victory conditions, which you do not want them to achieve, obviously, as well as their own threat cards and their own deck of cards for their actions. You're going to put a threat card on each of the 6 locations that you'll have chosen randomly out there. Those will all be different kinds of things that you probably want to defeat throughout the game. It could be the villain's henchmen, or it could just be, other things that help the villain out in the long run that, again, you don't want to help the villain. That's pretty clear. So, so you're going to do that. Then each person is going to pick a character to play as. They'll all have their own deck of cards. A lot of the cards are the same between characters, but they do have some special abilities that they'll be able to use. So, the villain will start on a location. The heroes start on the opposite location, basically across from it. And then you'll get going. The villain goes first, and then you'll do 3 hero turns, followed by the villain, another 3 hero turns, and it just kind of keeps going like that. As you're playing out your action cards, you're putting them in order, and you're keeping that order in front of you. That's called the storyline, because it's telling you what happened in this big adventure versus the bad guy. And sometimes you have cards that'll let you pick a card out of the storyline and like swap it with one you have or something like that, so it's important to keep track of that sort of thing. Also, when you take a move, if someone has taken a move before you, you can use the basic actions that are on that card. So those actions could be move, attack, or heroic action, and those all kind of play a role in the various kind of cards and things you're trying to defeat. When you do defeat one of the threat cards that the villain has, that card will come off of the location, and then that location will usually have some kind of bonus to you when you end your turn on that location. So they're good to get rid of.
And then the whole board is set up around the villain's playing card and guide missions. And there will be 3 mission cards out. Normally it's for defeating the villain's henchmen, defeating thugs, or rescuing civilians. In order to attack the villain, you have to defeat 2 of those cards. And then as you defeat those cards, the villain's turn comes up quicker. So as you start off, it's 3 players' turns and then the villain. As you get rid of one of those cards, then the villain comes up after 2 player turns. So it starts to ramp up so you need to get rid of those cards, but you also want to watch your timing of it too, because if you get rid of that card too fast, then it'll make the villain harder to defeat.
Yep. And the heroes lose, of course, if the villain gets its main goal accomplished, which is going to be on that particular villain's dashboard thing. If the villain runs out of action cards, or if one of the heroes runs out of action cards, then that will cause the heroes to lose. Oddly, your hero can get killed, and you're pretty much okay. If you just get defeated, you just kind of come back the next round with the full hand of cards, but you start to run out of cards. So
I mean, in its comics, people come back from the dead all the time, so it's fine.
I think Jean Grey shouldn't even have to wait. She just pop right back up immediately when something kills her, just cause, gotta stick true to the comics.
For the art and components, I really enjoy the art and components in this game. The art style is a chibi version, so if you're not familiar with that term, it basically makes all the characters look like little kids. And so they have big heads, little bodies. If you're familiar with anime, you probably have heard of chibi, but for those that aren't familiar with anime, that kind of gives you an idea of what the art style is. I think it's really cute, and the models are really direct from the artwork, but they have a lot of details to them. Like, I'm actually really impressed with the models in this set.
Yeah, me too. I mean, for all that, the art is very cartoony, so I mean, there's not like hordes of different crazy stuff all over them. They really look really, really good for being one-piece models that you don't have to do any assembly, thank God for. That'd be a lot of assembly. The chibi style, yeah, some people just don't like it, and there's really nothing I could say that's gonna change their mind. But to me, it even reminds me of when Mojo does something with X-Men and he turns them into the X-Babies, which have been some of my favorite X-Men storylines because they're all like small children and Magneto poops his pants and all kinds of stuff. And those issues make me laugh anytime I read them. So I see this kind of art, and it just makes me smile every time because it makes me think that any one of these characters could poop their pants at just any moment, and that's funny to me. So, I feel like the main focus in this game when they were doing the components was definitely the models.
Yeah.
Which is not to knock the other components, but like, I don't know, what do you think about, because like the locations and that sort of thing, a lot of that is all just cardstock.
Yeah, it's pretty much, besides the models, it's all cardstock and some cardboard tokens. I'm fine with the cardboard tokens. I kind of wish that the mission cards were recessed, because that seems like everywhere else you kind of stack for the most part, but like the mission cards I can see getting kind of bumped. That's just a really minor thing. That's really the only thing that I think I would kind of change, but they definitely wanted to spend the money focusing on the models, so I think they made the right choice.
Yeah, I think they really wanted to keep the cost down because the base sets are available in like Target and Walmart and everything, and I don't think they, I don't know how much that would have affected the cost. It would have affected the price of everything was thick cardboard and whatnot, and they wanted to keep this, I think, kind of inexpensive and accessible for anyone who's going to looking at these games like sitting next to Monopoly or whatever. Like they don't want to have this $60 game that might scare off some people, and what they did with the cardstock components, I think those are really good quality for being that. Yeah. So I have no real complaints about that.
Yeah, going back to the models real quick, the other thing that I really like about them is that they're color coded.
Oh yeah.
And so all your heroes are blue, the villains are red, the few villains that can be heroes are purple. So it really makes it easy to look at the board quickly and kind of see who's who.
Yeah, especially if you're not familiar with some of the characters. If you're playing with someone who, doesn't have any idea who Storm is, at least that's a hero. Narrows it down a little bit, so that helps for sure. Okay, so for theme, this we're really kind of talking about both Marvel United sets and really all of it. But we're mainly talking about the base sets. But I'm glad that this second set was X-Men. The first one was like mostly Avengers, that sort of stuff. And it was nice that they gave those B-level heroes their time in the sun with the first outing. They put an accessible game that people would want to play, and then they could be like, oh, what's a Captain America? I don't know, but he seems okay. Shields.
Hey, look, there's a movie.
Yeah, like, what was that, direct to DVD or something? I don't know. Anyway, great movies, I'm just kidding. But, they were smart because they made this popular game, and now, to make sure they made a lot more money, they brought in the real A-listers, the X-Men. Let's be honest. Listen, you can't judge them by the movies. Let's not talk about... We don't need to talk about the movies, okay? I can make bad movies, too. That doesn't mean that the source material is bad. The X-Men are the best. And whether you're playing with the X-Men or Avengers or Spider-Man or whatever, they do them pretty well, especially, I think, with the villains. Mm-hmm. The villains all really feel like you're fighting that villain. When you fight Juggernaut, he is just stomping around all the locations, just crushing everybody he goes by, which is so perfect. And Magneto, he's a little more subtle. He doesn't tend to move around as much, but he can basically convert like civilians over to his side or just replace them with thugs somehow. I don't know exactly what he's doing, but it's bad news, and it seems appropriate because he's good at getting followers.
Yeah.
And he has a lot more minions, whereas Sabretooth has none, because Sabretooth doesn't do that. He just goes and kills people, because that's Sabretooth. I love it. I love how everyone feels different. I do think, and I'm curious to get your opinion on this, that the heroes that you play as, a little less so. You do have cards where they have their special abilities, and the special abilities fit, but that's where I feel it's a little less, like I don't feel as much like I'm playing one person versus another. I
agree. Feeling as if you're playing these heroes is it's definitely not as immersive as some of the other superhero, especially deck building games that we have. But I think it was a little bit of a balancing act for them, because they could have made the decks all based off of the special cards for all these heroes, but the fact that one of the core game mechanics in this is playing off of what the other players have played down, it would make it a little bit harder for them to balance that out if they did make all the decks really specific to each hero. So it'd be kind of nice if they included just a few more cards that were specific to that hero, but I also understand the balancing act.
Yeah, and they couldn't, if all the decks were vastly different from each other, I think you'd have a lot more of the problem where one hero is just clearly better than another. Who knows how they would have done the rules, but are you going to pick, to fight this tough villain, are you going to pick Phoenix or Madrox the Multiple Man? Nothing against Madrox, but come on. Granted, they could have messed up the rules and had it be exactly the opposite, but the point is that, the more different those decks were, I think the more likely you are to have some heroes that are just not good and some heroes that are fantastic. And with the way it is, even though it doesn't feel strong like you're playing those heroes, I don't necessarily get the sense that one is always the better choice than another. So in a sense, it's kind of a positive in that way.
I think with the X-Men version and the original set, I think they did a good job of incorporating the theme. It does feel like you're the heroes fighting against this bad guy. The locations that they have, are all locations from that theme. So there's kind of theme just all over the place with this game. So I think they did a really good job of incorporating it all together. So for our final scores, we're the actual score, we're going to kind of lump in all of the Marvel United games together for our final score. But the X-Men set does have some new rules or some special rules that each set will have a little bit of special rules, but this one did, we didn't notice other sets having bad guys that could be good guys. This one has a solo mode, so there's a few small differences, but our final score is going to be over all of the Marvel United games. With that being said, I really enjoyed the Marvel United games. It's a fun, fast-paced game. It's almost like it has a party feel to it, a party game feel to it. To me, it's something that's a theme that people can understand, especially if they watch the cartoons or the movies, or, they don't have to be a big comic book fan. As long as they just have a general knowledge of Marvel, then they can get it. And it's an easy game to explain. The rules are simple, so it's just a nice, light, fast-paced game.
Yeah, I agree with that, and it's what's kind of cool is that I feel like you can think about this game as strategically or just fly by the seat of your pants as you want, because you could be like, okay, well, I need to play this and use that person's thing, but then you could communicate with everybody else and be like, okay, is it more useful to you if I play this kind of card or this kind of card, because they might be able to utilize, you know what I mean? You could plan this out as far ahead as you want to, in a way. You don't know what the villain's going to do for sure, but I think it's kind of neat because you could play it super light and breezy. You could be a little more strategic if that's what you want to do. You can kind of take it any way you want, which is pretty cool. So my,
question to you, how do you feel that this game does with scaling player count?
I think it does a couple things. So the main villain will have more or less life. It can get a little different. If you're playing with, Well, especially if you're playing with 4 players right away, you're going to notice that not everyone's going to get a turn before the villain gets a turn, because it's three-player turns, whether that means that somebody's going twice or someone doesn't get to go because you're doing 4 players. There is that. I don't think that's bad. You still get to use like the last player power that was used, even if the villain's in between. So, I mean, I think it's okay. Like,
Yeah.
I feel like maybe on some villains it's going to matter more than others.
Yeah.
Because they all do different things, and they can win in different ways. So I feel like some villains you're going to have maybe a harder time with more people and maybe an easier time with more people a bit. I don't know if it's going to be that dramatic, though, to be honest with you. I don't think it will.
I think it's just a matter of the villain's turn feeling like it comes up faster at the higher player count. You know, there's the hit scores are going to be different, but those mission cards on when you can attack are going to be the same. So the scalability of a player count is always something that I consider with games. Any kind of scalability of the difficulty of the game, especially when it's a co-op, is something that I also look at when I'm reviewing games. Other than which villains you choose to fight against, I don't think that there's a lot that you can do to necessarily scale the difficulty of the game. But that being said, the villains do play a lot differently, and there is a lot of different varying difficulties between those villains.
Yeah.
So, you know, if you're new to the game, I would definitely start with the villain that they suggest starting with, and then work your way up. Overall, I really enjoy these games, and I'm gonna give it a 9.
Wow, very good. There's actually one way that you can make it harder. We just played it like the base difficulty. You can make it harder where there's a symbol, I don't remember what they call it, but it's basically like a wild symbol. And so every different character has like a few that have like 2 wilds on them, 2 cards that have like wilds on them. So if you want to make it harder, everyone just gets rid of one of those. It's not like massive, but it could have an effect, because the wilds are obviously very nice because you can adjust to whatever you need. As far as my final thoughts on the game, I have the original everything, and I got the X-Men. I was really glad that they came out with the X-Men. It was nice that they gave the B-team heroes back there, the Avengers and whatnot, some time in the spotlight. That's good, and I hope that the goodness of this game gave them some kind of decent publicity so that people will start to care about them. But let's be honest, X-Men. I mean, I don't even know what else I need to say, really, but I will talk more. X-Men makes this game greater than it was. Your opinion may be wrong. I mean, very, and that's fine. I do like this as a starting set better, seriously, regardless of what heroes are in it. It just has a little bit more variety, which I think is kind of cool. I like playing, or having the chance to play as, you know, the guys that are sometimes villains. That's just kind of neat. It's a fun thing to do. And it is actually in keeping with the comic. A lot of these villains have spent time on the X-Men, as weird as it sometimes ends up being. Like, Magneto cannot make up his mind.
No.
Is he against humanity, or is he like, let's work with humanity? He doesn't know. Wait 50 issues, he'll change. That's how he is. It's very odd. But I like that. That's really fun. You know, the expansions all add, you know, some other sort of rule or whatnot, and then different villains, of course, and different heroes. And there's a ton of variety here without straying so far off of the original that you feel like you're playing entirely different games every time, but it's still different enough to keep it fresh with everything you play. It is a very simple game in terms of difficulty to learn. You can have a very hard Magneto whooped us so hard. Sabretooth, not so much. We took him down pretty well, but that's great. I like that because that's how it should be, right?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, not knocking Sabretooth, but like, you know, let's be honest. So, but I really like that, and you know, like you were saying, that's a part of scalability. You can kind of tell, like, okay, wait, it's probably going to be a bigger problem to fight Apocalypse than Mystique. Apocalypse is not in this base set, but he's in one of the expansions. I don't know how easy it is to get all the expansions, or will be, so I'm trying not to go too much into all of that. But yeah, you know, some people have kind of complained about the lightness of this game, which, I mean, if you just don't like games that are co-op, then you just don't like games. It's that simple. But I think that you can have some deep strategy and some really awesome things in even a light rule set. I don't think you necessarily need big complicated stuff to have a great gaming experience. And you know, for the base set costing, I don't remember, 30 or 40 bucks with like 10 or so models in it, I think. Pretty awesome. A lot of ways you can play it.
Yeah.
That's great. That's
and
fantastic.
I think it's a great intro level game.
Yeah, I do too.
Because, like I said, it's a theme that people get. You know, a lot of people like superheroes, so you know it teaches a lot of core game mechanics that can be transferred over to other games. So, you know, if they like this game, then you can kind of branch out in a lot of different directions with this game.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I've been really going back and forth on two numbers with this game, and it's driving me crazy because even up to the second, I think I'm going to give this one a 9 as well. I like having a game where I can get my Marvel fix. It feels like Marvel. Like the heroes and villains feel pretty much right, and you can play it in like maybe a half hour. Like it's pretty easy to set up, fast to play, easy to learn. You know, if you don't play in a long time, you're gonna pick up the rules again in a snap. It's not a snap. Anyway, it's not too hard. I will say, if you're talking about the original base set, that one gets an 8.99 for not being X-Men. Sorry, that automatically makes it not quite as good. Sorry, it's close. I won't dog it too bad because some people like the Avengers better. I guess it's weird, but that's fine. It's, you know, everyone's different. But you know, the system, it's a 9. If you can score some of the expansions that have characters you like, do it, because again, it just adds more variety and you can mix and match to your heart's content. It's great. You know, make the team you always wanted to see and go against the villain you always wanted to see them fight. If you can find the right expansion, you know, they're out there. They get some pretty obscure people, so that's great. So yeah, 2 9s and a asterisk 8.99. So, so I hope this video has been helpful to you. If it has, please hit like and subscribe and click the little bell icon so you can know about the next time we put out a video. Otherwise, we'll see you all around the table.
Bye.
I'm gonna take a drink. Oh, I walked in everything. Literally everything. That was amazing. I'm a little proud of myself. Oh god, oh god. If you liked that video, I think you might also enjoy this one.
Or this one.
Please hit this little button to subscribe so you can see all our future videos as they come out.
We'll see you around the table.
Bye.
Bye.